Yay, Media Group.
Protein is everywhere these days. It's showing up in snack foods from donuts to Pop-Tarts, our coffee drinks. There's even a shortage on cottage cheese in our store shelves. So when it comes to protein, how much do we really need? Are these specially fortified foods even worth it? So we cover the science, the hype, and how we hit our own protein goals in this episode of Fueled. A quick note before we dive into today's podcast. If you like what you hear, I would love for you to subscribe to Fueled Wellness and Nutrition, wherever you download your podcast. It would also be incredible if you take a minute to rate and review this podcast. Those things do matter and they really help us.
I'm Molly Kimball. Welcome to Fueled, a wellness and nutrition podcast. I'm a registered dietitian and nutrition journalist with a passion to help people live their strongest, healthiest life possible. In my weekly TV segments and columns, there's a limited amount of time and space to cover everything, but there's so much more to share. This podcast is my opportunity to dive deeper into the topics you want to know about.
Welcome to Fueled Wellness and Nutrition. I am registered dietitian Molly Kimball, and today we are diving really deep into protein. How much do we really need? What are the best ways to get it? And what is all the stuff we're reading about branched chain amino acids or powders, the sudden buzz around peptides? What does all of this mean? So joining me today is my partner in crime from WGNO, meteorologist Kerrigan Chauvin. She's a former college soccer player. She's all in on fitness, wellness. If she were not telling us about the weather, she'd be a dietitian or a personal trainer. Also joining us is Robert Cooner. He is a dietetic student at the University of Alabama. He's been interning with our Eat Fit team this summer. He's an aspiring sports dietitian and stays really current, really in the know on the latest research and findings related to all things performance fueling. So up front, Kerrigan and I are protein advocates. That doesn't mean that we are only protein or that we're all about cutting out carbs or everything else, but it means that personally, we both perform better when we're meeting those protein targets. And when I've worked with clients spanning more than 2 decades, literally thousands of clients, I've seen the same there's exceptions, of course, but I've seen the same where protein is going to keep them feeling fuller longer. It helps them keep those cravings under control, stronger recovery from athletic performance, improved body composition. So again, there's always exceptions, but for most people, getting enough protein does move the needle. And it's not just us. Protein is really big business. So you've probably been seeing some headlines, reading about it. It is, these products that are high protein and products with high protein claims, they have quadrupled over the last decade or so. Cottage cheese is flying off the shelves. I mean, you can't find it. There was actually a sign at a store the other day that said limit 2 per customer for cottage cheese. And so, there's protein donuts, there's protein ice cream is everywhere. So we'll be diving deep into that. We're going to separate the science from the hype, how we structure our days to meet our targets. How much protein do you need for real, animal versus plant? What's the deal with protein timing? All of this. So with that, let's get into it. All right. So welcome, y'all.
Hey, happy to be here.
This is your third. Have we done 2 together already?
We've only done 1 together.
And that was a taste test for
eggnog.
Eggnog.
That was an epic way to start our podcast series.
That was right when you started also.
Yeah.
All right. So I was thinking we'd done more together. So we did a taste test for eggnog. Today, deep dive for protein. And Robert, this is your first podcast ever.
Absolutely.
Have you ever done anything that's it's not live, but anything that's been TV?
Really?
Anything?
This is it. This is the first. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think let's share with our listeners just a little bit about each of y'all. We'll start with Robert. So I mentioned that you've been interning with us this summer.
Yes. Absolutely love it.
It's so much fun having you with us and joining us at WGNO, kind of getting a peek behind the scenes of how that all goes down, going with us to our different Eat Fit partners. We met with the Superdome last week.
No way.
It was really neat.
I was hoping we were going to have a walkthrough, kind of like, when you feel like you're like a mouse in a movie, kind of behind the scenes and everything's closed. We didn't get to then, but hopefully we'll be back in there before Robert's back in school for the
Is Eat Fit
summer.
going to have options in the Dome this year?
Yeah.
So awesome.
Yeah. We have in the past, and then the Superdome food service group changed over. Mm-hmm. And when Robert and I met with them last week, they had been in place for literally 1 week 7 calendar days, including the weekend. And they were meeting with us before the new season starts, like right away. So
Really
they're
great turnaround.
yeah, putting it as a priority. So, but yeah, so part of the reason we asked Robert to join us is Kerrigan and I have been talking, whenever we're at the station, we knew we're going to be doing this deep dive on protein for the podcast. We're also spending 3 full weeks of our segments at WGNO in September. We're breaking it into 3 full segments on protein. And as we were talking about this, Robert's chiming in with, hey, did y'all read the study? What about this? And so I thought, well, let's just bring us all together and have this conversation.
Yeah.
And your background, Kerrigan?
I like lifting heavy things in my spare time. I've been active all my life. Just that's my way into this world. Meteorologist full-time, athlete part-time.
And studying.
Yeah. So currently want to dabble more in the fitness and health industry. So currently getting my certification to be a personal trainer and get my nutrition certification in corrective exercise. Corrective exercise, probably the one I'm the most passionate of right now. I've kind of been dealing with some on and off injuries throughout the past year and kind of just been able to heal myself this past few months, saving me tons of money in doctor bills with information that I now can use for myself and to eventually help other people down the road. So now I'm ready. I'm healed. Protein intake is high, carb intake's high, and I'm ready to start competing again.
So when we're talking about protein and we look at why were we having this conversation? We've covered protein before on this podcast, but the depth that we're going to go this time, I think, is even more. And we kind of jokingly will say like protein's having its moment, but this is like never before.
I think it's having its moment now because people have more access to it now. If we look at everything like back in the day, it was all a little bit harder to come by, just financial situations of folks. Everything is so accessible to people now, not only information, but also like products. Food is so accessible now. That's why we're having this kind of obesity issue, this unhealthy issue to begin with, is food is so accessible.
And the technology to fit protein into foods unexpectedly is also there.
Absolutely. The research and everything is just blasted.
And there's more that is showing us that, the benefits of protein, and we'll get into plant versus animal protein and all the different types. But when we look at things like studies looking at healthy aging, protein is one of the key things to prevent that loss of muscle mass. That is going to be key for people for their balance, their core stability as they're getting older. One thing too is the GLP-1s, the Ozempics, the medications there, as people are losing weight, they're also losing muscle. And so the instruction from their providers is often get more protein. And so there's more of an awareness of protein kind of from all these different angles, whereas before maybe it was more specifically the fitness arena, athletes, and now it's people taking these medications. It's people going into, their 60s and 70s and above. And what can I do to maintain the muscle I have and hopefully grow and build more muscle mass? I don't think that we need to get more like a deep into what protein is, but essentially it's the core, the building blocks for things like muscle, bone, our enzymes, our hormones. It's key for all of these things. A lot of what people are reaching for it for is specifically their strength benefits, the muscle benefits.
It's an essential macronutrient. So like between carbs, fats and protein, you will die without them. And I don't think people understand. Like you cannot cut out protein or fat from your diet. You will not survive.
One of the things that is, as I mentioned earlier, the articles that people are sending to me, there's so much money in the protein space now. So I was reading this. Did you see about dairies and how they're benefiting or what they're doing with their whey protein runoff? So before, like, let's say cheesemakers in Wisconsin. This is an article I was reading is about this, some of the primary cheesemakers in Wisconsin before when they're making their cheese, Kerrigan and I, Robert's been there, we've made cottage cheese from scratch. And you remember how much milk we used and all that runoff we had? We had like this tiny little nugget of cottage cheese made from all this milk. And so the same thing with cheese. Like when you have, it's like 10 pounds of milk to make 1 pound of cheese, and they have all this liquid runoff. And that liquid runoff is very high in whey. And before, they had nothing to do with it. They would sometimes use it to spray crops or any of these kind of just other like random, what do we do with all this like mass and volume that is excess, that is not being like in our finished product of cheese. And they were selling it for some different uses, but now it's gone from about 2.5% of their bottom line to almost 10% of their profit, because now they're selling what used to be considered waste runoff to companies who are now isolating that to create that whey protein. And so even like dairy farmers, yes, they're making money by selling that product they're making, which is cheese or cottage cheese or whatever, but now they're also making more money from what used to be that waste.
I like that. That's cool.
Right. I think it's neat that it's one of those, like, you don't think about that trickle down effect. Different bars are coming out. It's hard to keep up with all the different types of protein bars coming out on the market, or protein fortified anything. And what we'll be talking about is how much protein do we need? What are all the different sources? And I think every time you're walking in the store, you're seeing something new that has protein in it. And some of these can be a convenient way. Some of them aren't really necessary. Some of them have a lot of other weird ingredients, but we'll get into that. But first, let's talk about why protein matters, the benefits of protein.
Like I said, you need it to survive. And if you're not getting enough, one thing I notice is just you're not as sharp.
Right.
You almost just seem brittle. That's like the best way I can put it.
Yeah.
Brittle.
Brittle is a good word.
Absolutely. I mean, protein's used as enzymes all throughout your body. So almost every bodily function in some way or another has protein as a main component of it. So whether it's you're sharper mentally or your muscles are more efficient, protein is almost guaranteed to be part of that process.
I did a radio interview just this morning, and it was about kids' breakfast. And that was one of the things we talked about. And it was, what are you sending kids to school with as you're fueling them? And protein is one of those afterthoughts a lot of times with what's going to be a quick breakfast and portable. But it's when we look at it, it's that muscle growth and development. It's building that muscle mass, maintaining that muscle mass. As we talked about, like that healthy aging, preventing, there's a word that you might be reading, and it's sarcopenia. And this is basically muscle loss as we age. It's one of those things that's sort of thrown around, but it's real. And if we're inevitably losing muscle every year as we're over about 40, unless we're actively doing something to gain it.
Like, that's not a guarantee either. You can do something about it.
Yes.
Right.
Which I don't think people realize, like, it's just because I'm getting older.
Right.
They think certain things are supposed to happen whenever you get older. Like, in a sense, yes, but not necessarily. I know plenty of people who picked up weight training and eating correctly later in age and are in better shape now than they've ever been in their entire life. They have more bone mass and more muscle mass than they've ever had before. So aging is not an excuse to kind of let yourself go or
be frail.
or to think that you can't do it.
Right. No, I love that. And you're right. It's one thing if somebody has started it in their teens, 20s, 30s, and they've continued that through, they're going to have a leg up for sure. But if you haven't, and you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, and you're making that shift now, not too late at all. Yeah. And
More important.
The mental benefits you can feel from it, the physical benefits you can feel from it. So when we have chronically low protein, I just kind of, just very briefly, the benefits are the physical, that muscle growth, preserving that muscle mass, keeps us feeling fuller longer. It also helps to stabilize those glucose levels. So when we're eating things that are protein rich, it's also helping to slow that down and buffer the release of that glucose into our bloodstream.
We also talk about like the thermogenic effect of protein
right.
too. Like if you
tell us.
Like if you're trying to lose weight and you keep your calories exactly the same, but you just alter your percentages to protein a little bit higher, you're naturally going to start burning a little hotter. Your body will use more energy to break down protein molecules than any other fat or carbohydrate. It's just going to make it that much harder to keep that little chunk of fat on that you want to get rid of. So
Thinking of it in terms of protein revving up that calorie burning machine inside of us.
Yeah.
Takes more to break down those same
Just
protein
makes your
calories.
engine run a little
Absolutely.
hotter.
Yes.
And it's also more satiating, so that also helps when you're trying to lose a little weight.
Yeah, it's a good 2-for-1. Like
Yes.
you won't even have to eat less. That's the thing, is like you don't even have to drop your calories, just alter what you're eating.
and you're going to feel so much more satisfied.
Yes.
On the flip side, if we're not getting enough protein, we can be fatigued. The cravings, especially carb cravings, when someone's not slower muscle recovery, you're feeling sore after a workout, even not a hard workout, but you're losing that strength, all of those things. So protein matters. It matters, and all nutrients. Carbs have their place, fats have their place, but protein, I think, is one that we really have to plan for. It doesn't just find its way in. So, talking about how much protein do we need? The RDA is really low.
I don't understand how some people are like, oh, it's so hard to hit my protein. And I love it. I love it. I struggle more getting my carbs in than my protein. Like some days, so just to be like completely transparent, I hit around 170 a day.
Grams of protein.
Yes. So I exceed my 1-to-1 body weight gram. Some people look at that as a good ratio. But I have a lot of protein every day, but I'm also trying to gain muscle, and I'm working out. I'm doing my cardio every single day. And some days I can easily push 200, 220. I know some women who are on 200 grams of protein a day, and they are just fine.
Robert,
So-
do you track yours?
I do. Yeah.
What's yours
Where you're
usually?
at.
So I aim around like one gram per pound body weight. So
Okay.
170-ish, but I get around to 200
Yeah, I
most of
can
the time as well.
easily tap into 200. But like meat, like some people don't like taste of meat. I love
Oh,
love the taste of meat. Like it's insane. So I don't necessarily relate to those people who are like, oh, I find it so difficult. My mother in particular, she's like, I find it so hard. I can't do it. I can't eat more than 2 eggs. But like, I can't relate, but I can understand. And I've met enough people like that. And I have enough people like that in my life that whenever I eventually get those clients down the road, because this is a field I'm trying to get into, I know how to.
And we have to be
Take that
creative
on.
with them,
Yeah.
so maybe they aren't meat eaters. They're not going to get it through their chicken or their seafood. So we have to find these creative ways. So going to what you heard both Kerrigan and Robert say, and for myself too, typically what I recommend is a gram of protein per pound of body weight. And we'll say healthy body weight. So the three of us sitting here
lean,
are at
yeah.
and lean body weight is the way I would say it, but I also would say healthy body weight, just because depending on where someone is in their weight space. So if somebody is,
I also say your ideal.
Target.
that's a good way to say it.
Yes.
So it's like,
Yes.
what weight do you want to be? If they say I want to be 150 pounds, 150 is a good target. 150, 160, a good target to get to.
And when we say that, that's if someone's looking to gain weight, also if someone's looking to lose weight.
That's
and so
correct.
if we have somebody who, let's just say hypothetically, is 280 pounds, but maybe 160 is their healthy weight, they may not need 280 grams of protein. So that's why we say healthy weight, ideal body weight, lean body weight, but a gram of protein per pound of body weight is a really easy, it's a very general but easy rule of thumb. Typically what I would say is not to drop below about 3/4 of a gram per pound of body weight. So 0.75 to 1 gram per pound. We won't continue to say healthy or ideal body weight. We'll just say body weight, but that's what we're talking about. The minimum that I would usually recommend for someone, I mean, if they're just really struggling, like Kerrigan said, and I'm really like, what's the bare minimum we can get you to get? 0.5 gram of protein per pound of body weight. That's going to be just like skating in on the bare minimum. The RDA, though, is 0.36 grams per pound of body weight. It's so low.
Yeah, I don't want to live in that world.
And so and there's a lot of debate on this, many, health professionals, I don't want to say most because I don't want to speak for others, but many, if not most, agree it's too low for most people, especially most active people. And so the RDA some of that is looking at preventing deficiencies.
Right. It's the minimum amount you would need so that you wouldn't get that muscle wasting and muscle protein deficiencies. So,
And keeping, like you said, your enzymes optimally functioning. Right. But what we're looking at when we look at all the other benefits we were talking about earlier, that's not just skating by. That's optimizing our wellness, optimizing our intake. And so half your body weight as a minimum is typically what I'm going to recommend. And ideally getting closer to that 1 gram per pound of body weight. There's been some articles that I've read in some really bigger publications recently that are far reaching. And I've been disappointed because when it says click here for the calculator for how much protein you need, and it has the RDA of 0.36. Yeah. And I'm like, no. And so, I think if there's one big takeaway from this, it's if you're looking at your protein intake, aim for 1 gram of protein per pound. If you're really struggling, try to get at least, 3/4 of that.
And that will change depending on activity level. So if you're, an athlete, you're going to want a little bit more than that. If you're a little more sedentary, you might drop down to the lower ranges. But
I think with that, you and Kerrigan were both talking last week about a relatively new study that came out looking at protein needs for and the differences in optimizing it during the phases of active muscle building versus maintaining that muscle mass that we have. So share with that.
So generally, if you are just starting in the gym, you're going to see changes to your body every single week. You're going to be, oh my gosh, this new muscle, I didn't know I had that. It feels different. You're going to feel different things that you haven't felt before. You'll visibly see changes. You are morphing your body into a new body, a new human every single week. So you are going to need the building blocks, the bricks, the mortar, all that stuff to build that new house that you're essentially building. And with that, you're going to need more material, more protein. So your newbie gains require more protein, I believe, than those who are just trying to maintain down the road. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, your body is this amazing machine that adapts to its environment. And so, when you're first starting out, it's not as efficient as it would be at using some of those, proteins to build muscle. But the more you work out, the more efficient it gets using those proteins. So you wouldn't need as much protein, but it's, still definitely essential and important to get.
So for the person like you were talking about earlier who really struggles, maybe that's good news to them. Like in the beginning, okay, aim for that 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. You're really trying to lay down new muscle mass. You're trying to have that growth phase. And then once you get to where you're kind of holding steady, okay, you could dial it back. But by then their taste may change, their habits may change, and they may not find it so challenging to get that 1 gram per pound.
And another super important part is it's not pass fail, right? So if you don't get to that 170 or whatever your goal is, you don't be so stressed out about it. These are guidelines. These are goals. You want to, get your best. Every little bit counts, but don't stress too much out about not hitting that exact goal.
So when we're looking at timing, tell me for both of y'all, kind of what's your approach post-workout for optimizing that muscle recovery?
The anabolic window. In a sense, it does make a difference, but it is a very small difference. I wouldn't harp on this topic too much if I had anyone that was like close to me and was trying to be big, but the window's much bigger, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's, upwards to 2 hours, even later into the night. And just general daily protein intake is far more important than trying to time
immediately after racing home.
That whole 30-minute anabolic window actually came from carbohydrates. And then it kind of got converted over to protein, but it's not really the same.
And you know who loves talking about the anabolic window? Protein companies, protein shake companies, because it is the best way to sell a product.
Oh yeah, you see so many people in the gym immediately afterwards.
Right now,
yeah.
Right.
I had somebody telling me this week. She's actually training for an event that, for her, it's always a race against the clock to get home from the gym and get that meal in. How much are y'all aiming for after a workout, protein wise, after a challenging workout?
So at least 20.
20 to 40 grams is an easy number to remember. What I try to do is 0.2 to 0.25 grams per pound of lean body mass, which is very specific, but doing that before 1 to 2 hours before working out, and then also 1 to 2 hours after working out.
And 20 to 40 grams of protein would translate to like 3 to 6 ounces of protein.
Yes.
20 grams of protein, we haven't kind of talked in terms of real food. It's also what you get in a carton of Fage Greek yogurt or a scoop of protein powder can easily be 20 grams of protein.
Or like a piece of chicken that's the size of your palm.
Yeah, like a little deck of cards, 3 ounces. But for a lot of people, their size of their palm might be 6 ounces.
That's true.
And so when we talk about 20 grams of protein to 40 grams of protein, that's also for a lot of people a good rule of thumb when they're eating just throughout the day, whether it's immediately post-workout or if it's their breakfast, if it's their lunch, if it's their mid-afternoon snack. And
I keep my protein ratio the same all throughout the day. So my breakfast, my snack, my lunch, my snack, and my dinner, the same amount of protein for each one of those.
what is it?
On average, 25.
What are some of your protein combos that get you to that 25? Which I love that. I think that that's a very attainable amount for people, kind of going back to even the person who says, oh, I struggle to get my protein in. 25 grams of protein, or even in that 20 to 40
easy.
window, and looking at that as kind of your allotment that you're aiming for with each meal and snack. I love. Yeah.
Yeah, so like 2 eggs and 4 egg whites in the morning. That'll hit you at like 25, 30 grams protein. Second meal at work, on the go, a shake.
Do you blend it or you have it ready to drink?
Is there a blender at WG now? No, what I do, I take my protein powder, since it's literally freezing in the studio. I'll take my powder and put it in a big coffee mug, and I'll put hot water in it and make a hot chocolate. And I'll take my rice cakes and dip it and just pretend that I'm at a French cafe.
And there's so many creative ways to use that protein powder.
Right.
I mean, mixing it with milk and putting it on cereal,
Right.
or in your oatmeal. You can find ways to include protein into typically not protein heavy foods.
Right. I like that a lot. And it does give that variety. And then you also seafood.
Yeah. So then my evening meals, whenever I actually have access to a kitchen, I'll do salmon, about 3-4 ounces, and then cod, 3-4 ounces, and then either yogurt or meat, 3-4 ounces.
And how about you, Robert? What are some of your go-to proteins?
In the morning, and this, I know it's a fad right now, but cottage cheese, I love having like a whole grain piece of toast, cottage cheese on it, maybe a little drizzle of honey and cinnamon. I love that. That's like my go-to. Eggs are also in the morning super great. I mean, they're full of other nutrients as well outside of protein. And then snacks, I'm pretty easy with just like a protein bar as a snack, or maybe I'll have some beef jerky, something like that. Meals, I love chicken, I love fish. Even like red beans and rice here is, everyone, ask anyone in New Orleans, red beans and rice is like a staple on Mondays.
Right.
So that's great for protein as well. So
Y'all hit on all of my favorites. And then I'll also, the creativity with protein powders is one. And then I like to, if I have a protein bar that I enjoy, it's also sort of like, I may not have the whole part of it, but part of it, if you're having that little sweet tooth, it's, just, and then you're getting that sweet, but also a little bit of the protein. And then collagen, having that afternoon and a coffee is not only 20 grams of collagen for joint support, gut support, but it's also an extra 20 grams of protein that we're layering in. Your comment about so Robert was mentioning red beans, and I think that kind of segues us well to animal versus plant proteins. And Robert, I don't know if we talked about it with you, but I had sent Kerrigan a link to a TV segment. I sent Kerrigan and our producer at WGNO this link, and it was someone who, was in a wellness space, but breaking down protein. And I don't like to criticize other health professionals because everybody's in this together and everybody's in it to try to help educate, share, inspire. So I won't say anything more about who or what it was, but I sent it to Kerrigan and I said, I think that this is overcomplicating things, because one of the, key points in a very brief segment was plant versus animal protein, and then the idea of plant proteins are often incomplete proteins. And so what do you combine to have your complete proteins? And then if you're going to do a protein powder, it would need to be soy because that was a complete protein. And I thought, first of all, I felt like that complicated things too much, and it's not necessary. So when we talk about plant and animal proteins, the animal proteins are what's considered complete proteins. And then plant proteins, some of these are incomplete in that they're lacking one or more of the 9 essential amino acids. And so the essential amino acids are things like isoleucine, leucine, valine, histidine, methionine. There's a whole, list of these 9 essential amino acids. And growing up, we used to, like, the messaging, even in like school and science class, was that if you were going to have a plant protein like red beans, it's incomplete because it's lacking. Beans are often low in methionine. You needed to pair it with rice, and rice are low in a different essential amino acids. So you had to have them together to make it a complete protein. But now we know that if we just have it at any time through the day or kind of within a same-ish window, our bodies are going to assimilate that and create these complete proteins. We don't have to obsess about, if I have this plant protein, what is it lacking and what do I have to pair it with?
Right. I mean, immediately at the, you don't have to have red beans and rice at the same meal, for instance.
Right.
I mean, you could
have just red beans.
Right, red beans. And then maybe later in the day, you happen to have rice with your...
Or an animal protein.
Or some other protein, like an animal protein.
That's going to round it out also. Yeah.
I mean, the typical person will most likely get all of their essential amino acids just from eating their typical meals.
And we say with everything, there are exceptions. If we had someone that followed exclusively a plant-based diet, if someone is vegan, not even vegetarian, but vegan, and they limited certain foods for certain reasons, there could be an issue with that if someone had a very restrictive diet, but that's going to be unusual. That's not going to be the norm.
I always want to ask that person too, why are you doing this? And I don't want to come off rude by saying that, but like, are you doing that because of social influences? Are you doing that because of you think it's cool, because you find it works better for your body, because you have an intolerance to lactose or intolerance to meat and dairy products? Find out why you're doing it. And if it's purely just because of social influences, or you want to be a part of this enclosed vegan group, just take a step back and look at what you're doing. Truly notice how you're feeling. And with the vegan protein powders, if you're simply just having that because it says vegan on it, that's not always better. So check in with your body. If you have a lactose intolerant and you still, if you're lactose intolerant and you still want that whey type of thing, there's bone broth protein, there's collagen, there's other stuff that's not as harsh.
I think that's a really good point, not only for this conversation of plant-based protein to animal protein, but why we choose to avoid certain things in general.
Like, why are you putting yourself in a camp?
Yes.
Just any camp in general.
Yes.
Like the big gluten-free movement. I mean, that's a different topic.
And I'm speaking from experience. I've been in every camp that you could possibly imagine. I've been carnivore, I've been keto, I've been vegan, I've done all of that. And now I have the healthiest relationship with all this that I ever have. And I eat everything.
And it's such freedom.
It truly is. And you listen to your body. Some things don't feel right with me. And you just avoid it afterwards. And it's fine. And being a competitor and doing the super, super clean stuff, like I cut out artificial sugars, I cut out everything like the week prior to stepping on stage. You get so in tuned with your body whenever you do that even like a protein bar or something, I was like, took a bite and you don't feel well. You reaccustom to all of that. So if you are losing touch with how you're truly feeling, I always really encourage everyone to take a step back, eat clean for a couple days, and then kind of reassess your diet based
absolutely.
on that.
I mean, intuitive eating is such an important skill that we just, our culture doesn't really emphasize.
Or the rules that we've put on ourselves and why. And maybe that was important at one point to us for whatever that reason may be, but is it still? Did you know that I didn't eat meat for about 15 years? I was a vegetarian.
Really?
I know.
I picked up on it because you do have a lot of tendencies towards plant-based. And I questioned that a lot.
Actually, it's been years. Let's see, it was from when I was 15 to 29. But I would say the reason I'm always looking at plant-based options is because I'm aware that people have that interest and they're looking for more, either because they are choosing to avoid animal products for personal reasons, or they're looking to get more plant-based products in for fiber or other nutritional reasons. So I'm always trying to give people the option, which is probably why I make those. Not as much a personal reason now. I'm 50 and it's been since my 20s that I went back to eating meat. So I was 15 when I stopped eating meat. And the reason though at that time was because more of the animal issue. I thought, I don't want to eat something that could be my friend. And so if it was that chicken or that cow or anything that I saw, my uncle had a farm and there was, cattle out there and you're seeing this little baby cow being born. I thought, I don't want to eat that. And so that was a lot of the reason behind it for years. If I could have this friendship or relationship or an awareness with this animal, I didn't want to also eat it. So I did have fish largely during that because I also kind of felt like that shrimp isn't going to look and say, they're not going to have any awareness of who you are, You
really want to hang out.
The fish is like buzzing by you. But yeah, but other meat I didn't eat for years. And it was 14 years and I was 29 and I had been with Brad, who's now my husband, I think at that point, 7 years. And so he only knew me as that. And we had gone to this restaurant and it was with a big group of people. It was this really nice steak restaurant down in the French Quarter. And one person got filet, another person got lamb. Like there was all these really delicious dishes coming out. And I got scallops. And everyone's trying, try this, taste this. And everyone's sharing and swapping. And a girl who was sitting next to me was a cousin of a friend of ours. She didn't know me. She didn't know that I didn't eat meat. She offers me a taste of her filet. She said, "Do you want to try my filet?" I said, I'd been thinking about it because at that point, as a dietitian, working with clients who were coming in and I'm guiding them all the time on lean protein sources and lean animal protein sources and becoming very comfortable with that and becoming comfortable with the whole life cycle and food cycle. And I've been questioning in the back of my head, why am I still doing this? I don't feel so strongly about it, but it had become so much of that identity. And in my head, I thought, I don't know, but I hadn't even really verbalized it. And in this moment, when she says, "Would you like a bite of my filet?" I said, "Yes." Everybody stops because everyone else was super close. Brad's looking at me. They're all like, "What just happened?" And then everyone's like, "Try this, taste this." And so I ended up tasting all these different foods, swapping my scallops with her for her filet. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. But it was that realization that what had been important to me at 14 years ago no longer drove those choices. I was just doing it because I always had, So I think whether it's your choice of types of protein, animal or plant, or like Robert said, if you're gluten-free, there's some people we talk to, they're gluten-free, they're dairy-free, they're vegan, and you're just, it goes on and you're like soy-free, like all these limitations. Yeah. So asking why. That was a little bit of a tangent.
A good one though.
So when we're talking about plant versus animal proteins, I think that is, kind of with that, it's thinking about why. If it is the animal issue and you want to avoid animal proteins entirely or some or certain types, then plant proteins can be that good option for you. Going back to Robert's conversation about red beans, it's just knowing that those plant-based sources, when they're in that whole food, like a red bean or a black bean, you're going to get a good bit of protein, but you're also going to get about 3 times more carb than protein. So if someone's like, well, I don't eat fish or beef or, these lean sources of protein, but I eat a lot of quinoa and beans, you still can reach that protein, but it's also going to be with a lot of carbs, high fiber carbs, but still carbs. Right.
I saw something on social media the other day. It's like, it could be worse. Carbs could be 9 calories per gram.
That's funny.
It was very funny. I laughed for a good minute about that. And for those listening, carbs are 4, protein is 4 grams, and 4 calories per gram, and fat is 9 calories per gram. So it was saying like carbs could essentially have more calories per gram.
That is like,
And I was like, oh, what a tough world that would
like
be.
a geeky little dietitian or fitness joke, you know. What's interesting though, whenever we talk about the different types of proteins, you know, lentils, beans, quinoa, all of these, when they are converted into a protein powder, they don't have all those carbs. So I think just for our listeners, if you're seeing a protein powder and you see that it's a pea protein, PEA protein, or you're seeing a plant-based protein that has quinoa or lentils or any of this, it's the isolated protein from there. So Kerrigan mentioned earlier about plant-based proteins, and a lot of times those are derived from those that do have a lot of carbs for that protein, but it's just the protein that's isolated and put into these powders. So if you're using a plant-based protein powder, it's typically going to be just protein. The food though is going to usually have a lot of carb along with it. Yeah. Anything else on that topic before we get into powders? Because I think animal versus plant, I feel like there's some stuff that we could go deeper in that.
Absorption.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, protein quality. Do you want to speak to that, Robert?
You can go ahead. Yeah.
So when you look at like protein quality and animal proteins are, the word that I often use is like they're digested, they're broken down, they're assimilated better and more effectively, and better used in a more usable form for our bodies than plant-based, bioavailable, and then plant-based proteins. And so if you're looking at sort of a ranking of different types of proteins, animal is going to be higher, and then breaking down to plant-based. So yeah, protein quality better.
I read something recently, and this is like so nuanced, will not matter to your day-to-day person, but some whey protein can be so readily available to your body, you can actually get a slight insulin spike from it.
Yeah, that could make sense. Yeah.
So like immediately after your workout, if you want something that goes down the hatch like super fast, it will be like so available that you'll actually see a little jump up.
Quick digested, quick absorbed.
That's what I was looking for. Digesting.
Anything else on that plant versus animal protein that might be something that's a point of confusion for people?
I don't know. People normally have digestive issues with some plant proteins.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that I've really heard
Soy.
with that.
Yeah. Soy especially.
Even pea.
Mhm.
Some people have problem with the pea protein as it goes down. It's probably just the added fiber in it that I can think of. Probably some of your artificial sweeteners as well with that. Just a big concoction of.
I think the other on that is if someone's using a plant-based protein powder, you're not getting all your benefits of vegetables. Don't fool yourself on that, you know? So if someone's like, oh, I'm trying to get more vegetables and plants in my diet, that plant-based protein powder is not giving you the same vitamins, minerals, antioxidants that you're going to be getting if you ate the spinach or the red beans. You know, it's getting the protein extracted from there. If there's anything else we think about on that plant animal conversation, I think with that, I would say there's not a right or wrong. It's what someone, you know, if someone has reasons that they're choosing to do a more vegetarian or lean to a vegetarian or vegan approach, just be mindful and look and track your protein. And, are you going to have the judgment for them, Kerrigan?
No, whatever works for them. I will never judge what someone else is doing. I let people, because a lot of people have questions about what I do. Because what I do is a little weird.
But you don't love many of the plant-based protein foods personally. Like the plant-based proteins, you go more towards the animal-based.
Yeah, if I have the option, I'll go animal-based for sure. Just it normally has less other things in it. Normally whey isolate is just whey isolate. But I will never judge what someone else is doing. So what I do is weird. People look at what I do is very, very odd and have questions all the time. If they have questions, I'll answer their questions.
I love it that you are such an open book on it.
Yeah, but I don't go look at other people's lives and tell them what they're doing wrong.
Yeah.
If they ask me to do that, and some people, they do ask me, and then I do give them but I'm never going to force my opinion. Even people in my family, it's like, I will wait until they ask.
Yeah,
and then
we have to.
Eventually they do. And in that moment, they're like, oh man, I wish I would have talked to you sooner, but I'm never going to be that one to pry, because that's how you turn someone away. Just go live by example, and then people will will come.
Yes. So plant-based, animal-based, whatever your choice is, just aim for that protein, aiming for that 1 gram of protein per pound of healthy body weight, which can be a little bit more challenging and finagling if you are getting those plant proteins in, but it's 100% possible. The other note on that too, I would say there's a lot of plant protein-based products that mimic meat. And I think
okay, now I'm judging.
I knew there was a conversation we've had on it that lit you up. I was like,
this one.
So the Beyonds, the Impossible, a lot of these products, while they're meatless, they're not even anything close to natural.
Yeah. I wish that those products had to take off the fancy labels. They can't give it its own name and simply just list the main ingredients. That's what they had to put on as the name.
On the front of the label.
On the label. I don't want it to be called Beyond Meat. I want it to be called oil soy blend
with myoglobin added
and color added and this. Put that on the front. See who buys it now. Say, if you're gonna be if you're gonna be vegan, cool, do it, but do it responsibly, do it correctly, love your body. Come on, don't fall for the trap. They're truly trapping people. Our senses, our taste buds are hijacked by high power companies that are trained to engineer these foods to hijack our brains. And it's like they're picking on people. They truly are. They're bullies. Tangent done.
No, it's not. I'm going to continue it because as you're speaking to the Impossibles, the Beyonds, the kind of fake meat products, I say hijacking people, picking on people for the ultra processed foods. In general, which these are ultra processed foods. They are ultra processed foods.
They're tricking people into making them think they're health foods and they're not. And I think that is wrong. I think that is so wrong and should almost not be allowed in a way because they are taking advantage of those who are not informed. And that really infuriates me.
It's also I'm not eating, if we're not eating meat and we're eating a vegetarian or a plant forward diet, kind of like we said earlier, plant-based protein powders, they're not giving us all the nutrients that you're going to get through vegetables. Neither are those meat substitutes. It's protein extracted from these, but because you're having a quote veggie burger, you're not really getting veggies in most of those.
In some people's diets, meat is the only thing that's not processed.
Right.
Truly.
That's a good point.
Their protein source, that's normally the only thing in their diet that is not processed. If you have a burger with fries and this and that and chips and a cookie, out of all of that, what's the healthiest thing? It's the meat.
So don't hijack that too.
It's the patty. It's why are you? Yeah.
So on protein supplements, powders, which brands of powder do y'all use?
I just Isolate. So Whey Isolate.
Whey Isolate.
That's great.
I'm the same with the Whey Isolate.
Do you have favorite brands?
I know a lot of good brands. I don't know if I want to name drop.
For me, it's less the brand, but making sure it's third party tested and for athletes, NSF Safe for Sport, things like that, where, what you see on the label is tested and the claims are true versus non-third party tested.
And so when we look at protein powders, staying in this conversation of animal versus plant-based, animal-based protein powders that are going to be common, your whey protein, which Kerrigan was just saying a bit ago, it's digested and absorbed so quickly. So it's great for recovery. It's quickly digested, absorbed. You could have it before a workout. It's not going to sit heavy. You can have it immediately post-workout. So that's whey. The other milk component of protein is casein, and casein is really slowly digested and absorbed. And this is one that can work really well for someone as a nighttime snack, helping them stay fuller longer through the night.
And cottage cheese has entered the chat again.
Right. Cottage cheese is such a great source of casein. It's also hard to find, not every place there's a casein protein. You have to go to usually a specialty supplement type store to get casein protein powder. Whereas before these cottage cheese times, we would say, well, just get cottage cheese. Now casein protein may be able to be easier to find than cottage cheese. Or you tune into Kerrigan and I's segment and you make your own cottage cheese. But casein protein is another. So of your milk-based proteins, you've got whey, you've got casein. Both of those are protein powders. Another, I think, popular animal-based protein powder would be collagen.
Collagen. And I think bone broth falls into that category
Right.
as well. Paleo Valley is a good bone broth protein.
And you can get bone broth in the liquid form. You can also get bone broth powder that you would like reconstitute with water. And collagen
But
usually
they make like a protein powder.
Yeah.
That's,
Okay.
That's what I'm talking
Yes. Thank you. Yeah. So bone broth protein, which brand?
about. Paleo Valley is really good. I'll just name drop all my
Ancient Nutrition.
Yeah, most of their stuff is really good too. I don't know if they have a bone broth one. I have their protein powder at home right now. At home, I have Ancient Nutrition. I have my Hydro, which is Labrada's one, and they worked hard to get that super clean. It is simply just isolate.
That's awesome.
So love that. And Organifi also has a good protein powder that I like.
So if you're looking at a bone broth protein powder, would be also a collagen rich protein powder, like if you were going to get collagen, like a bovine. And usually if you see collagen peptides, like Vital Proteins is one of the more common brands of collagen peptides. It's usually going to be bovine, meaning it's from beef or cows, but sometimes you'll see marine based collagen.
Yeah.
You won't see a vegan collagen. Like there's no such thing as a plant-based collagen. They'll say there's, sometimes you'll see something marketed as plant-based collagen, and then you look at it closer and it's precursors to collagen, and kind of like it's a long windy path there. But if you're going to have true collagen, it's going to be bovine or marine.
Have you read anything about how collagen may not be the best source for like muscle building?
Right. It's very good for your protective layers like your skin, your hair, your nails.
Your
When
gut.
it comes your gut, but when it comes to the muscle, protein synthesis itself, it's better to go more like a whey or a casein, because of the leucine content.
Going back to our essential amino acids, yes. And so the animal-based, typically whey, collagen, some casein, you're going to have to look a little harder for that. The other that would fall into animal-based, but it's really kind of fallen off the radar entirely, is egg protein.
I was about to bring that up.
It's possible.
I've tasted it. I've never went out and like bought it myself, but I've done so many like health summits where I've literally tried everything that there is under the sun.
I feel like someone could open egg protein across the house and you could smell it. It's a really strong.
Feel like you can make some epic shakes with that one.
Yeah.
Though.
The
Like,
creamy factor.
like
Put that in our
super-
eggnog.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just feel like you can get really creative between shakes and like pancakes or baked goods with the egg white protein. It's like just a base to mess with.
Yeah. So egg protein is an option for powder, but it's few and far between of seeing that. I feel like when I was a kid, there would be whey protein or egg protein or soy protein. That was the other.
Soy.
So if you were looking for a plant-based protein years ago, it was soy. And talk about GI upset, because a lot of people would have some GI upset with soy. And so soy protein is still available, some as a plant-based powder, but more likely you're going to get a blend that's a pea protein, hemp, brown rice, all different kinds of veggies that are isolated protein blends as your plant-based protein powder. And I find that soy is even just harder to find on shelves these days.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people,
I think the soy boy thing gave it a very bad connotation through the years.
Yeah. And also the flavor of it is a little stronger, that some of those others are more neutral. And so if someone is looking for something that's not dairy or animal based, the new versions that do have all those other veg blends isolated, they're not as strong as the soy. Mm-hmm. And so they can kind of disappear into things a little bit better. Robert talked earlier about kind of creative ways to use protein powders, but stirring it into your milk, put it over your cereal, put it into your oatmeal. You can use it in a variety of types of recipes. You can use it in place of some of your flour and like baked goods or pancakes.
It's so easy.
Make it with hot water, pretend like it's hot cocoa. Anything else on protein powders before we?
No, I think we covered it.
And
I
then,
will say, some people will get a little GI upset with whey, or some will get upset with casein. So also being intuitive
Yeah.
and figuring out, which one works better for your body.
That's a great point, because it could be the way for some is casein, for some, like Kerrigan said, it's the plant-based, the pea proteins. And then for others, it may be not the actual protein itself, but might be the sweetener that's used in it. So you're right. That's a really good point, that a lot of times if someone says, I'm adding this protein powder and my stomach is a little rumbly, why? Well, that's not always the easy thing to answer. You kind of have to test out several different things. Is it the type of protein, or is it the sweetener in there? So if you do experience that with one, try another. And then beyond protein powders, there's protein in everything. Kerrigan and I will be spending a segment talking about this, but ice cream, Kerrigan has a package of protein donuts here. There's every single cookies. We were talking about shortbread cookies the other day. Robert saw a protein shortbread cookie at the convenience store, like the gas station.
Random gas station down the road. I know.
And so I think going back to even a little bit like the impossible type foods, these foods, I love that protein is becoming easier to come by, but I do think it's also one of those things that you have to weigh, is this product really healthy? Just because it has a lot of protein in it, it still may not be a nourishing product.
Right. I mean, a lot of those will also have so much added sugar, and that's another topic, but minimizing that is also important.
So typically I usually recommend, and see what y'all think of this, if something's 20 grams of protein, the ratio of sugar is trying to not get more than 3-4 grams at the most. Ideally as close to 0 as possible, but 3 or 4 grams of sugar being your max for 20 grams of protein.
I even like to go even like 2,
I know.
like 1 for each for like 10.
Are we talking about added sugar or?
I would say yes, added sugar, and like especially bars and stuff. And I agree with you, Robert. Like I try to go personally as close to 0 as possible. If there is, but given a little bit of that like wiggle room, if someone's got a product that's 20 and that's got 3-4 grams of sugar, but products now have come a long way where they're dropping it. But the idea is keep your sugars as low as possible. If you're looking even at bars, powders, these other products.
Yeah.
And that the high protein label or the low calorie label doesn't necessarily equate to healthy as well.
What were some of the ingredients in the protein donut you've got?
Oh, so this brand, we've talked about it from time to time. It's legendary. I don't necessarily love all their ingredients, but as for the sugar, it's 0 total sugars and 0 added sugars, but they use erythritol. And yeah.
How about artificial colors or sweeteners in there?
Okay, so I don't like that they use highly oil like sunflower oil and palm oil. That I can tell whenever I have their products, it does meth, and I know for sure it's that single ingredient, because of that and other things. Even if it's just like sauce that you put on food, if it has that in it,
You feel it.
I feel very icky.
All right. So any other things that are some of the big questions about protein that we haven't covered? We talked about plant versus animal. We talked about the different types of supplements. How much do we need? Timing, essential amino acids. Any kind of myths or kind of myth busting that we haven't talked about? One of the ones I had in here was collagen builds muscle like whey,
right?
As a myth. And then another is the absorbing only 30 grams of protein at once. Don't put these hard and fast rules on ourselves for that.
I think another myth is the high protein causing damage to like your kidneys or something. I mean, if you have some pre-existing medical condition, that's a separate story.
You're right.
But for the average healthy person, they got even up to 3 grams per pound, and they were like, yeah, no, there's not really any negatives. Right. Matter of fact, they found more positives.
I'm so glad you said that, because that's a question we get a lot. Yeah. And the question will come from people who aren't even anywhere close to that. They're not even close to a gram per pound of body weight. And when we give that number, the fear comes in. So you're right. There's again, always the exception if there's an underlying condition.
Right.
And Whole Foods, I know we preach this all the time. We've been talking about protein powders, packaged foods, protein goodies, chicken, beef, eggs, yogurt. That is the best source. And that's what you should have on a regular basis. All these treats and powders, that is a semi-regular
The supplement.
Right. It's meant
Yeah.
to supplement your
Yes.
meal. I mean, so many people also will put their supplement first and like they'll build their
Yes.
meal around it. It should be
Yes.
the other way around. Those whole foods should come first. Build your plate first, and then you can supplement with anything that you might be lacking on that plate.
Yeah, great point. And the building our day around those real whole foods. And also, just like we were saying, as you're pulling the, pea protein or brown rice protein into a protein powder, you're not getting all the other nutrients that are with those real foods. Same thing with salmon, with chicken, with all these other foods. They're not just giving us protein. They're giving us all these other nutrients that if we just did those in a powder form, you're not going to get. So real food as much as possible. The supplements, whether it's a bar, a protein powder, or any of these other random protein things that we're seeing, they're exactly that. They're to supplement if you need.
They're a supplement, and they're also a business. Like that, people do not give them enough credit for what they are doing. They're formulating. They're using scientists to hijack your senses to make you love this so much that you want more of it, that you're going to go back and buy more of it. So if you don't want to have that intense craving afterwards, maybe like staying away from them is the best thing you can do. Because I know that's how I am with some of this stuff. I get addicted to it, and I have to completely cut them out, stay off of them for a few days. And it's like, oh, I really don't even know why I wanted that. It's not even that great. Or you have to notice what it is and take it for what it is.
I mean, they even use coloring. Just certain colors, red and yellow, tends to stimulate hunger response more, which is why so many fast food chains will have a red or a yellow logo. Or if we look on all of the different protein bars, you'll see like a red, a goldish color, an orange. They stimulate that hunger sensation. And it's funny, the same goes for like those Impossible meats. They'll have like blues or greens to make you feel like you're healthier.
Right.
Like it's more, tied to nature.
With the little leaf on the package.
Right,
type thing.
exactly. But it's just, this psychological manipulation, if you will.
I think, Kerrigan, you also speak from like that experience. And we recently did a TV segment where we did the pints of low carb ice cream that is also the protein ice cream. And you were like, oh, wait, like it was a conscious choice and a conscious decision for you to have that, because it was something that has lit up those receptors before, and you have struggled with that and said it kind of had that vice grip and you had to push back on it.
Yeah.
So I was like, thank you for tasting these here with us. And you don't have to, if you don't want to, it's okay. You don't have to, but you're right. Speaking from experience, that these things it can be that slippery slope that we start with that intent because it's a healthier option. But then that becomes one of the primary sources of nourishment in our bodies, and it's not really nourishing us.
And there's also so much fear mongering online. I mean, with social media, it's so easy to fall down a rabbit hole where you're doing a lot of things because social media said it was healthy.
Or not. Anything else, y'all, for wrapping up our last protein conversation? 1 gram protein per pound body weight. Big takeaway.
Yes.
Easy math.
Absolutely. Get in 3 to 5 meals with protein. Try and keep it consistent throughout the day.
Real food, whole food when you can. If you're going to use a powder or a bar, look at that as your supplement, not your mainstay.
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
And we'll link to, we've got, as this drops, it'll be in a couple of weeks that Kerrigan and I will be doing a little bit more of a visual, because this is, it'll be a TV segment, fast 2.5 minutes each version of this, kind of breaking this down for our viewers to give some visuals of that too. So we'll link to that.
Sweet.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks both of y'all for your time.
Absolutely. That was great.
Anytime we have Kerrigan with us, it's always a blast. And I'm really excited to have Robert with us, his first podcast ever, joining us to talk through all things protein. So I'll include some links in the show notes of this episode, and always let me know what you think. I am registered dietitian Molly Kimball, and you've been listening to Fueled Wellness and Nutrition, the podcast. And if you'd like more Fueled Wellness and Nutrition, please head over to mollykimball.com, and you can follow me, Molly Kimball RD, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And if you haven't yet, please go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Join us next time for another dose of Fueled Wellness and Nutrition. Thanks for listening, and stay focused on living your strongest, healthiest life.